Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is The Late Show, and I'm your host, Young Brando, live from Los Angeles. We are going to talk watches tonight. We are going to look at the number of auctions that Sotheby's has for us in New York, alternatively titled Important Watches, Fine Watches. There's one that specifically focuses on pieces from Tom Brady's collection overall. A number of watches that have historical provenance, celebrity stardust, and lots of horological importance as well. So let's get to it. As always, you guys know I like posting the link to the auction in advance in a way. And I think I'll start with the Important Watches one, which is the live event on December 6th, meaning next Friday. So that's the one that's coming up. Feel free to browse it. Feel free to take a look at it. If you see a few interesting lots, whether they are the usual suspects, whether they are predictable or surprising, feel free to send in the lot number and we'll start talking about them. I will, in the meanwhile, start warming up by talking about a few things that I posted on my Instagram feed more recently, which seems to be doing extremely well. I do apologize for my absence over the last few days, but life gets in the way. A lot of you guys who know me personally know the situation, so some days are more difficult than others, and it's family always comes first, of course. I think we talked about this particular piece and how Luca Cordero di Montezemolo, who is basically a retired Italian business executive by now, but who has held very important positions within the Fiat Group, had an important role to play in Ferrari's rise to success again as a Formula One team with his involvement in the Scuderia, and has always been somehow championed as a bastion of relaxed Italian style. And here he is, I think, bringing out some of the more elegant, some of the more sleek aspects of Jarajanta's original design, the Royal Oak. After all, of course, the piece had that sort of nautical inspiration that Jarajanta traces back to a diver's helmet that he saw at the heart of Geneva. I think it was somewhere near Pont de la Machine. I might be mistaken. Sometimes memory plays strange tricks on us. But the other part of the inspiration, the other part of Royal Oak's design heritage was, of course, those ultra-thin, sleek, elegant dress watches that Audemars Piguet was known for. And some of those dress pieces were themselves integrated bracelet pieces, so-called cocktail watches, so on and so forth. But you can see how this piece, as our friend St. Peter said there, goes just as well with a business suit as it does with a tracksuit. You can wear it with a traditional tuxedo, as it were, an ensemble with a dinner jacket, and you can wear it with a Canadian tuxedo, and you can wear it with a Russian tuxedo. Whatever tuxedo you want, wear it with a tank top, if you will, it will work. And this is the original Jumbo, of course, the reference 5402, which one can more or less tell both from the proportion of the case, but also with the white non-matching date wheel as well. Hey, Ryan Offrey. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here, and please don't hesitate to hit the like button. Eddie Fu. You know, I have to say, I used to be exactly like you in a way, that I would always side with the Royal Oak over the Offshore. And if not for anything else, for logistical reasons, I will, meaning, you know, in consideration of my own wrist size, I still prefer the Royal Oak Jumbo and smaller versions of it. The modern 37, the previous 14 series, so to speak, 14790, 14800, which I have. They scale right around 36. The so-called Royal Oak number 3, which was the 4100 reference number. That has a 35 millimeter diameter. The 56-175, the quartz-powered 33 millimeter, which is a watch that I also love. I love all those, and I would take any of those over a Royal Oak Offshore. That being said, knowing the design heritage that guided Jurgensen, and how, despite all these brutalist and modernist elements, the original Royal Oak still leans toward the elegance and sleekness of a dress watch more than anything else, in terms of at least how it wears. I completely understand now why Emmanuel Guet took that brief from Audemars Piguet and went in the other direction and designed a watch that came to be called the Beast, you know, giving the Royal Oak a new complication, which it did not have until then, in a model that was introduced in 1993, and obviously came with the reference number 25721. Now, since we just spoke about that, I will just go by the Royal Oaks that I posted. And if you guys have any other questions, by the way, you should simply hit the like button and start writing them, start typing them up in the chat. Feel free to follow me on Instagram as well. Here's what I was just talking about, and here is what I'm switching to. This is Prince Michael of Kent, who has recently retired from public service, as far as I know. Here he is photographed about a decade ago in his apartment at Kensington Palace by the legendary photographer of British aristocracy and all sorts of celebrities, Alan Warren. He's wearing one of his signature double-breasted suits. I mean, you can only see the jacket here, but you'll have to take my word for it, that he bespeaks from Anderson and Shepherd. And you see he has his signature tie knot, which is kind of bulbous, almost onion-sized. Despite all that, he's wearing reduced size Royal Oak. And I used to think it is the 14790, but I ended up finding a similar portrait photo of Prince Michael from 1990, which, if you want to chase after it, you can find earlier on my Instagram feed. And there he was wearing the same one. So this is exactly, precisely Royal Oak number 3, the first reduced size Royal Oak, the first experimentation in creating a Royal Oak that was smaller than the Jumbo, after Royal Oak II, which was the woman's version, designed by Jacqueline Demier. It is distinguished by its thinner octagonal bezel and, of course, its 35 millimeter case diameter. And I think it's really beautiful that it happens to be also two-tone here, which is a big statement. I call him His Royal Highness Prince Michael of Kent, patron saint of oversized tie knots and reduced size Royal Oaks. Great gentleman, quite advanced in age now, but still really an example, an icon of distinguished style, with his beard especially. Speaking of reduced-sized Royal Oaks, here is a picture of Giorgio Armani, who wears the reference 56175 in stainless steel. This piece is known perhaps more famously for the version that has the suffix TT in tantalum with stainless steel accents. That was the Royal Oak Championship that was introduced in 1990 in collaboration with Nick Faldo, celebrating his back-to-back wins in the US and British Open, if I'm not mistaken. This one is in stainless steel and must be an earlier example with a petite tapisserie dial, as you see here. And I'm assuming that dark black/blue or deep blue color must have patinated by now into a kind of bronze tropical appearance. I also caught a glimpse of this reduced size Royal Oak, the reference 77350 CE, the black ceramic, which runs around 34 millimeters in diameter. This was Carolina Bucci's own design, with a dial that was conceived by her, by the Florentine jeweler, for this limited run of 300 pieces. And specifically, she wanted to both harken back to the original tapisserie design that you guys know is usually pantograph carved, or pantograph cut rather. But here she made a kind of rainbow appearance on a chameleon-like surface, which, as she put it, would bring the rainbow out from the most unexpected of places, like when you see oil floating from a puddle in a city street. So it's a watch that both has a kind of urban appearance, largely blacked out, but also has all these possibly feminine, but I think overall very unisex accents, like the rose gold hexagonal bolts on the bezel, the rose gold furniture and handset of the dial, and of course the rainbow appearance of the dial design itself. 300-piece limited edition here on the wrist of the person, of the Florentine jeweler, Carolina Bucci, who designed it herself. Thank you so much, by the way, for being with me. I really do appreciate it and do not take for granted. So if you have any special requests, please just go ahead and shift them to me. This was a picture from Marcello Mastroianni, the famous Italian actor, cinematic legend, as I called him there, from the time of The Assassin, 1961, wearing a wearing a vintage chronograph, a gold chronograph in a cushion-shaped case that also has a very distinct crown, as you can see here. And that, I assume, makes it a monopusher chronograph, a single-button chronograph, where the start-stop reset functions are actually integrated into that enlarged crown. And with how the dial looks, the placement and the size of the chronograph registers vis-a-vis the crown, my best guess is that this is Vacheron Constantin monopusher chronograph, the medical chronograph, so to speak, which has a pulsometer that is graduated for 30 pulsations on the periphery of the dial, inscribed in blue. Of course, both here and in the movie, it's very hard to make out and make a positive recognition, but as far as I can gather, that was the case. And for Vacheron, this is a very important piece they hold in their archive, so to speak, in their museum. I don't think the one they have is Mastroianni's watch. However, they loved this piece so much that on their 260th anniversary, they actually released a rather oversized chronograph in what they called the Harmony case, that is inspired by this design, with their first modern in-house chronograph movement. But that's a topic for another day. I'm going to skip over a couple more and share with you two more as I switch gears to the auction. Ryan Hoffrey, thank you so much. Full Windsor large knots on great 7-fold tie. I cannot tell with absolute certainty from this picture how many folds this tie is made out of, but I can tell you that this is not actually a Windsor knot. This basically seems to me, from what I can discern, like a double 4-in-hand, probably, where he made 2 loops before he finalized the knot. He may have also gained that particular volume by getting a tie that had some additional lining inside. It might also be a 7-fold, but that's certainly not a Windsor knot. A Windsor knot would be more triangular, whereas the 4-in-hand always has a kind of swirling shape, which Prince Michael's knot certainly has as well. Captain, my captain, hey, YB. Lot 11 and 134 look interesting. I may try to attend the Tom Brady live auction. I'm trying my best not to comment on the Tom Brady debacle, but I think we will get to that. But let's start with lot 11, and I hope you mean this one. Please do confirm. And if it's the wrong one, I'm happy to do that as well. The great thing here is that this is a watch that comes with the actual receipt from Tiffany and Company. Because obviously the Tiffany signature on the dial can be faked, even though the particular font is not at all easy to replicate. A Tiffany box that is period correct can always be matched with the watch, and there is a presentation box here too, but an original receipt, both in the way of service and in the form of watch repair, which was performed, or rather sent in by Tiffany, is, it puts things in a context where it makes this watch much more compelling as a package. And yes, Captain confirms that this is in fact the watch. Please hit the like as a way of helping me thank Captain and Ryan Hoffrey for these generous super chats. We are looking at lot 11 of the upcoming Sotheby's Important Watches auction. This is a so-called red Submariner, reference 1680, a Submariner date with red writing and co-signed by Tiffany because it was retailed by Tiffany, and it does come with a presentation box as well as a service invoice. That seems to solidify the case for this particular piece. The font seems reasonably correct to me. So overall, I think this seems to be the genuine article. And if it is any reassurance, it also comes from the original owner's family as well. The estimated value of the piece is in the range between 40,000 to 60,000 in US dollars. GB, thank you for 20 Mexican pesos. Thank you for joining the show tonight. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you so much. The second one that the captain was talking about was lot 134. So let's quickly jump there while we are at it. This is kind of like the watch that I'm wearing. Same reference number at any rate. This is a 5513, the classic Submariner. No dates, with the beautiful symmetrical dial, just two lines of writing. Of course, with the tritium indices that have patinated into this eggshell color quite uniformly, as it happens, with the handset as well. And in a way, kind of in line with the heritage of Rolex watches, this particular piece was awarded to Cindy Nicholas, who actually in 1981 finished the crossing of the channel, of the English Channel, in 8 hours and 29 minutes. There is that rather mythological story of the swimmer Mercedes Gleitze in 1927, who wore a Rolex Oyster watch with a waterproof case. Therefore, she did it in about 10 hours. Cynthia Nicholas did it in 8 hours 29 minutes. So it's quite a feat that is recorded as an engraving on this watch. I always like this rather romantic presentation of the Submariner that used to come with a matching anchor that was in the same shade of material as the case. So, you know, golden ones accompanied gold Submariners as well. And it's also had the same depth rating written on it as well. This one comes with what seems like the original hang tag. And a very unique pedigree indeed. This is lot 134 for the Sotheby's Important Watches auction. A Rolex 5513 that was rewarded, a Submariner that was rewarded to Cynthia Nicholas for her 1981 crossing of the English Channel. Hey, Ossie. That's fantastic. Of course, just so you guys know, you should do that anyway, right? If you're planning to bid on any auction worldwide and you cannot actually make it there, as you register to bid, you should contact directly, and let me show you while we are on this page. You know, you should go to auction details, starting tomorrow, for example. There are actually appointments where you can go in and see these watches, but you can always call them, right? Call any of these specialists, and at least one of them will be more than happy to help you, send you other pictures, perhaps, if you have some specific requests, even arrange for a video call. Right? We don't always have the original OC who can go in and act as a proxy for us. Anywhere else in the world, you might need to use your own resources sometimes, right? If you don't have a friend, an advisor, a consultant to go in and do these checks for you, you might want to at least reach out yourself, ask specific questions, perhaps have a few important requests for specific pictures or even videos before you make a final decision, because you don't always have a chance to examine things in person. That's always the best way. Sending in a friend, or better yet, a consultant or an expert, is still a good way. And in the absence of everything, where you feel compelled to bid on something still, you should most certainly contact one of the auctioneers one of the auction house specialists yourself and make proper arrangements to get perhaps more detailed pictures. Before I shift gears completely to the auction preview, I'm going to go back again to the Instagram. By the way, Captain says, I forgot you had... My 5513 is basically the reason for my horological existence, Captain. But I will pretend not to be offended by the fact that you forgot it. This is a 5513 from the late 60s, which once belonged to my father. I have the riveted matching bracelet for it as well, but usually don't wear it on that because, as you probably know, those bracelets can get quite tired and they can be restored. And even when they can be restored, you still need to, I think, preserve them a certain way and not always wear it to every single occasion. But at any rate, I like wearing this piece on a ratty NATO strap more than anything, at any rate. So, it is what it is. This was a still that I got from the 2017 documentary, Agnelli, and it demonstrates a few things. I have always heard that he had a tank centré, an elongated and curved Cartier tank, but I had never been able to find a photo of him wearing that watch. And I'm always interested in finding a photo of Agnelli wearing a watch over the cuff of his dress shirt, which he apparently did with this watch as well. That was a style that he, in a way, pioneered, even though he hasn't invented it. People have speculated over the reasons. I always lean towards something that is probably either too simple or intentionally elaborate. The simple explanation is that his shirts were cut in a way where the cuffs were so tight that even the sleekest watches couldn't fit. And it was the same thing with those Brooks Brothers Oxford shirts that he bought off the rack on his trips to the United States. Now, I also think that he was inspired by frogmen and gentleman drivers who wore their tool watches over the sleeves of their suits, whether we're talking about wetsuit or a racing suit. So I think he wanted to bring some of that dynamism and competitive spirit, as it were, into the boardroom as well. Obviously, he had an Omega Ploprof as well, speaking of tool watches and dive watches that he wore in the same way, as well as a Porsche design chronograph that he also can be seen from photographs wearing over the cuff of his shirt. But this is Cartier Tank Centré in gold, seemingly pink gold, with exploded and stylized Arabic numerals, much like the one that Fred Astaire had. And finally, I think I want to take a look at this Nautilus right here. You're looking, I hate having to identify people by their partners, much less by their ex-partners, but this is Alessandro Vallarino Gancia, and he used to be the husband of Delphine Arnault, one of the LVMH heirs, who is a Louis Vuitton director and the CEO of Christian Dior as well. He's wearing a classic business suit with a double-breasted jacket, kind of a tone-on-tone pinstripe, electric blue over navy blue. And he's wearing a Nautilus that is relatively unique in appearance. This was incidentally one of those variations of the Nautilus that no one would touch with a 10-foot pole. But now that the hype took over, it has been appreciated in a different way, and it is presented as an example of rare beauty. Reference 3710, which was introduced in 1998, and it marks a return to the jumbo proportions. It is nevertheless slightly bigger than the original jumbo 37, slightly thicker, I should say, perhaps, because of the added quote-unquote complication of the power reserve, but also slightly slimmer than the 5711, and obviously preserves the monocoque single shell or monoblock construction, which was part of Gérard Janta's original design. It has, instead of that classic ridged dial, a matte black dial with applied Roman numerals, which are filled with luminous material, as well as a unique power reserve indicator at around 12 o'clock. And that is what gives this model its nickname, the Comet, the reference 3710. And this photo is probably at least from a decade ago, I would say. So it's quite remarkable that this was the Nautilus that he chose to wear. He chose as his own, because Alessandro Vallarino Gancia is also himself the heir to Gancia 1850, which I mean, they're very famous for their sparkling wines that come out of the Piemonte region. I believe they also have the claim to make the first Italian sparkling wine as well, but don't quote me on that. I thought this was quite interesting, and I wanted to share it with you. And with that, we can resume our auction coverage. You all know the rules. If you have any special requests, any other watch-related questions at all, feel free to send in a super chat and we will go from there. But in either case, if you have any requests from the auction, just send in the lot number and I will do my best to cover it with as much horological and historical detail as I could muster. We were talking earlier about the Royal Oak Offshore as a design, and I mentioned Emmanuel Guet's design, the Beast, which was quite a revelation when it came out, and a scandalizing one at that. It didn't make anyone too happy. Jurgensen himself was rumored to have been incensed and reacted quite badly to it. All that being said, obviously, the Offshore became an extremely successful model and a flagship model of sorts for AP, and really, it was really important in AP's popularity, increasing popularity, I have to say, towards the end of the 90s and in early 2000s, especially in the entrance and splash it made in the US market, thanks to some collaborations. Here we're looking at the titanium version of the Beast at lot 2 of the Sotheby's Important Watches auction. So the reference number is 25721 TI. It was unveiled on the 5th anniversary of the Royal Oak Offshore in 1998. And it's one of those watches that, in a way, pioneered or really pushed forward the use of titanium in watchmaking, specifically for sports watches. The titanium Beast very much had been influential for this specifically. And of course, AP had been experimenting with titanium early on. They had used it for the tourbillon cage of the self-winding tourbillon that they introduced in 1986, which is a watch that I obsess about and covered many times on this channel. And they also had produced in 1997 Grand Sonnerie in the Jules Audemars case, in a titanium Jules Audemars case. The 25721 TI, when it was introduced in 1998, was the first integrated bracelet titanium watch, however. And it also made sense, right? Because it was this, what was then quite oversized for AP, especially a 42 millimeter piece, a thick chronograph watch. To make that in titanium obviously made a lot of sense. Here's the set you would be receiving if you won lot 2 of Sotheby's Important Watches, which is taking place on December 6th. And the estimated value of the piece is set in the range between $15,000 to $30,000 US dollars. At number 8, we have a piece that I wouldn't usually condone, but Asprey always makes interesting projects when it relates to watches. And here is a customized piece that they sold apparently earlier this year. For all intents and purposes, it is a John Mayer Daytona on a leather strap, but of course, it's also, depending on where you're looking from, something more and something less than that. The dial resembles that model, that 116508, down to a T, except there's the additional signature of Asprey under the Rolex, 5 lines of writing from Rolex, as if that weren't enough. Of course, since this is a 116518, there is a black bezel, black ceramic bezel, instead of the bezel in matching yellow gold. And again, because it is a 116518, the piece is mounted on a leather strap, on a crocodile leather strap with solid end links, or rather fixed end links. Engraved on the case back as well with Asprey's logo in what seems is a pristine condition with their presentation boxes, purchased just last June. The estimated value seems incredibly high and optimistic, but who knows, maybe someone will actually appreciate this piece, not as a custom anomaly, but a unique piece, as it were, a one-of-a-kind Rolex Daytona. And the estimated value reflects or resonates with that optimism, since it is set in the range between 100,000 to 200,000 for this customized Rolex Daytona, reference 116518 by Asprey. That was lot number 8 from the Sotheby's Important Watches auction. Lot number 10 is, actually, I think we should do these back to back, probably. Lots number 9 and 10 are two Submariners that were once, or that come from the original owner, Mr. Al Giddings. And Al Giddings is I'm trying to remember his specific role, but he has worked for the Titanic movie. I think he was the cinematographer of the Titanic, and probably did the underwater photography for it as well. And this is a Submariner with red writing, a reference 1680, that has once belonged to him. Comes with an RMS Titanic booklet that is signed by him. Comes with or rather a photograph of the RMS Titanic that's taken by him and signed by him. And then the Titanic movie poster, which is also signed by him. And a few pictures of him as well, wearing this specific watch. And those pictures include this wonderful take of Sean Connery as well. Fantastic. This is lot number 9 for a quote-unquote red Submariner, a reference 1680 Rolex Submariner date that has been worn by Al Giddings on multiple dives to the RMS Titanic, and Al Giddings is an underwater photographer as well as the cinematographer for Titanic the movie. The estimated value of the watch is somewhere in the range between $20,000 to $40,000 US dollars. Ryan Joffrey says, what, if any, less popular Janta designs are you a fan of? I'm a big fan of his Jump Hour watch designs, especially in the Arena sports case, which is kind of what the Royal Oak Offshore is to Royal Oak Jumbo. That is to the Breguet Empire case design. I can go and bring that watch a little later. I'm also a fan of some of his pyramidal case designs, but mostly I think this is easier to say. I'm a fan of the Universal Genève Paul Router. I'm a fan of the Cartier Pasha, and that just about covers it, I think. So if you like any of those watches, feel free to hit the like button if you haven't already. Lot number 10 also comes from Al Giddings' personal collection. This piece was worn on the screen by Bill Paxton in the Titanic, apparently. There are a few photographs that accompany this one as well. Really incredible pieces that they have brought together. Other than the watch, there's a Titanic movie poster again that is signed by him. There's a print of an RMS Titanic photograph, underwater photograph that Al Giddings himself took. There's an example of Under the Sea with Al Giddings, his DVD. And some other photographs that he has taken or that were taken of him during the filming of the Titanic. Okay. Sorry for the momentary stop. There was, yeah, my Instagram account is doing quite well. Knock on wood. So sometimes I get caught up in responding to something on there. You guys know that I'm a big fan of this first version of the Rolex Gold Submariner, the 1680/8. There are a number of reasons. I love the nipple dial, pure and simple. I have a two-tone GMT master from early 80s myself. And even that 5-digit transitional model, 16753, has preserved these conical markers for the hours that Rolex used for precious metal and bimetal pieces for quite some time. I also love this gold sub specifically because Sylvester Stallone had one that he wore through the years on very important occasions and, pardon me, photo ops. And he also talks about this watch in the part dedicated to him in Matt Hraneck's book, A Man and His Watch, as well. So I really, really do love the 1680 in gold for all those reasons. And here you can get one from that has belonged to Al Giddings, the cinematographer of the Titanic, and that is lot 10 of Important Watches. And the estimated value of the piece is set in the range between 30,000 to 60,000 in US dollars. I will bring my Jurgensen jump hour momentarily. Let me see what we are going to discuss next of these watches. And while you take a look at that, I will bring the watch. Here's a MilSub made for the British Royal Navy, a properly mil-spec and military issued version of the reference I'm wearing today, right now, the reference 5513. This is lot 18 of Sotheby's New York Important Watches. Enjoy the moment. I will just bring the watch that I promised to show Ryan Hoffrey. Okay, I'm back. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind having a MilSub, but it's basically a $250,000 watch. So if it will have to wait a little bit. But GB Vol, you know my obsessions. Before a MilSub, for me, my vintage Rolex Grail is really a 1665, a double red Sea Dweller before that. So here is the Jurgensen jump hour piece that I have with a retrograde minute hand. Or the nipple dial gold sub. Yeah, I need one of those too, man. Honestly, I think at some point I should just give up on all these other watches and just get variations of the Royal Oak and the Submariner. So the reason I call this like a roided up version of the Breguet Empire case is because it has kind of modified version of those teardrop lugs, a coin edge decoration that goes all around the case band, a smooth bezel, and this piece has this white dial with a mother of pearl detail at the center, and a retrograde minute hand that is like a broadsword, but luminous. All the Arabic numerals there are luminous as well. It's really a beautiful watch. You know, I'm tempted to kind of double fist it and put it next to my sub, but I'm not gonna take my sub off. So maybe, yeah, I will have to double fist since I brought it. Let me remove my jewelry. They come on nice rubber bands, actually, usually. There's also a carbon fiber style black dial for the same model, but I really like the white one. And the white dial for sports watches, of course, I got used to from my Explorer 2. And this is actually a very flashy watch on the bracelet when you think about it. It looks like bullets. It's amazing. Hi, Basil. It's cool. Yeah. All right. I will actually remove this for now. Much as I love it, I don't really love the idea of wearing two watches at once. And we'll come back to our Sotheby's important watches auction. We were looking at lot number 18, which is a proper MilSub, a stainless steel Rolex Submariner reference 5513 from mid-70s that was made for and issued by the British Royal Navy. There are a number of visual marks that would identify this watch from this full frontal view. The broadsword hands, of course, the spear-tipped seconds hands, and the circled T right above the depth rating that identifies the luminous material on the dial, which is tritium. Of course, you can add to those marks the fully graduated 60 minutes dive timing bezel, right? Whereas Submariners are usually graduated up to 15 minutes, more or less aligning with the time that would take to go through a single tank for diving at the time. But this is fully graduated for more precise gauge. And you can see kind of the inspiration of why I choose that kind of color for my NATO strap, especially after it's a little weathered. I love that sort of gunmetal gray slash blued gray shade. Of course, MilSubs have soldered lugs, fixed lugs, so they're not supposed to be retrofitted with bracelets. They are meant to be worn on NATO straps, which of course is a way of making sure that the watch is still safe on the wrist of its wearer, even if one of the bars pop off. Of course, the case back is engraved appropriately as well. There is that signature arrow sign and the set of numbers that identify this watch as issued by the British Ministry of Defense, NATO, i.e. the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and 454 is its specific issuing number, apparently, and it was a watch that was issued in 1976. And apparently, Sotheby's did the research and found out that this watch was supplied to Her Majesty's dockyard in Portsmouth on March 11th, 1976. Really beautiful piece. Classic Rolex MilSub, reference 5513 for the British Royal Navy from the mid-70s, with an estimated value between 200,000 to 300,000 in US dollars. And Basil says an FXD before there was such a thing. Exactly, right? The Tudor FXD specifically takes its inspiration from mil-spec, military-issued watches like this with soldered/fixed lugs. Of course, that was a piece that incorporates those fixed lugs as a design element into it. It almost looks like a fancy buckle when you remove the strap from it. And I think there are such pictures on the Tudor page for the FXD. For those who are not really familiar with how the watch looks when it's like that, here is a hint. Tudor FXD without strap. I thought there were a few pictures of it like that on Tudor's own page, and there are, I think. But anyway, maybe I didn't immediately go to the right place. Here it is. This is the blue version, which of course is a collaboration with Marine Nationale, the French Navy. We're continuing our coverage of Sotheby's important watches that is going to take place in New York. I want to take a look at lot number 19. This is actually a Rolex day date that has once belonged to the president, the second president of independent Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, and it might be confusing, but it is actually engraved on the case back for Anwar Sadat, who is the president that took after him. The Rolex day dates, of course, has been associated with the presidents since it's been seen on the wrist of great world leaders such as Dwight Eisenhower and others. But it turns out that that Gamal Abdel Nasser also had a day date, and you will see that the auction listing itself has many pictures of him wearing a day date on a leather strap, And this is Anwar Sadat, by the way, who was for a time his vice president and took over after Gamal Abdel Nasser died. So this is understood to have been gifted by Gamal Abdel Nasser to Anwar Sadat. The back says, As-Sayyid Anwar Sadat, Mr. Anwar Sadat, with the date September 26th, 1963. Sadat was to become the vice president of Egypt in 1969 and then president in 1970 after Gamal Abdel Nasser passed. Of course, this is a piece that has Arabic day wheel and date wheel. It is a reference 1803. In 18 karat yellow gold. Mounted on a leather strap and matched with a gold-plated Rolex buckle at the end. And it is preserved with a collection of postage stamps from 1960 to 1977 and comes with a letter personally signed by the grandson of the second president of independent Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, Gamal Khalid Gamal Abdel Nasser. A very interesting piece of history, significant for a number of reasons, and coming with the right provenance, coming up for public auction as lots 19 for Sotheby's New York Important Watches. The pre-auction estimate for this watch ranges between $30,000 to $60,000 in US dollars. Lot number 20 was a watch that I put on my thumbnail because this is a piece that deserves to be headlining the auction. It is a so-called John Player Special for its distinct combination of black and gold. A Rolex Cosmograph Daytona reference 6238, meaning it has, quote unquote, an exotic dial in a gold case, pump pushers, bakelite bezel inserts for the tachometer. And in this case, you're looking at a 14 karat yellow gold case matched with a 14 karat Jubilee bracelet for an example intended for the American market from the late 60s. that is borne by the abbreviation on the balance bridge of the movement as well, a Valjoux 722. Of course, we have an exotic dial with a gilt writing for the Daytona that wraps itself around the 12-hour counter at 6 o'clock. And the champagne-tinted chronograph registers against the backdrop or black backdrop of the center dial have those Art Deco fonts for the numerals, as well as the square end hash marks as well. The John Player Daytona moniker comes from Tom Bolt, who goes by the name Watch Guru on Instagram. And he's a very important dealer from the UK and has come up with a lot of these interesting nicknames for watches. Of course, John Player Special is the tobacco company that provided the black and gold livery to the legendary Team Lotus in Formula One. And that black and gold really inspired this racing-themed watch due to its colors as well. Lot 20 apparently also comes from the family of its original owner, accompanied by a letter, therefore, from the consignor. Looks like it's in a decent condition, although hardly unpolished, I have to say. The watch has certainly seen, the case, I should say, certainly seen better days, thicker lugs, but still the condition of the dial is enviable. So is the overall condition and warm patina of the case. Nevertheless, the John Player Special Daytonas are some of the most special, no pun intended, versions of Rolex's storied sports chronograph. And the estimated value of this watch, Sotheby's New York places somewhere between $500,000 to $1.5 million in US dollars. We have talked about a lot of Rolexes, so let's shift the gears a little bit. And maybe look at this exceptional Patek that truly deserves the name Grand Complication. You're looking at a 5208P, a self-winding platinum minute repeating perpetual calendar monopusher chronograph, of course, with indicators for the moon phases, leap year, as well as day and night. I really like the design of the slider for this watch, which kind of looks like a shark fin to me on the left flank of the case. Of course, we have a single pusher above the crown, placed right at 2 o'clock. That controls all the 3 functions of the chronograph: start, stop, and reset. We have the 2 registers, the 12-hour counter right around 8:30. That also houses the day-night indicator in the form of a porthole that changes colors. There's a continuous running seconds at around 3:30. And there you have the leap year indicator integrated into that register. The small seconds subdial encircles the aperture of the moon phase, which is like a crescent facing above, and the calendrical indicators are in the form of 3 windows on the upper third of the dial. Subsequently, the day of the week, the date, and the month. Dauphine hands, a silver starburst dial, which gives the watch a very austere, nearly monochromatic look. At 42 millimeters, for all its complications, for all the features that it carries, the watch is not unwearable at all. I believe it's also, let me see, I just want to double check how thick it is. Yeah, it's like it's about 15 millimeters thick. The case is really special with those hollowed out, with those pierced lugs. And of course, as always, the look of minute repeater movement from Patek and the level of flourish at this price point, at this segment, is quite enviable. As always, you have an oversized micro rotor and that Calatrava cross cap for the governor. The 2 hammers are immaculately black polished in stainless steel, a double gong. The watch also comes as a full set, accompanied by all its accessories, which include this additional solid case back as well. If you need both the heft and perhaps also the additional sealing chamber for the chime, you can always put that on. This is lot 21 for the Patek Grand Complication, which is a perpetual calendar, an automatic chronograph, which is operated with a single pusher, with a single button, and a minute repeater all in one. And it has an estimated value that ranges between 700 to 1 $1,100,000 in US dollars. Wanted to shift gears a little bit. So let's go to 5990, which is also a complicated Patek, but perhaps, again, more akin to an offshore in its aesthetic than a Nautilus or a Royal Oak Jumbo. The 5990 is oftentimes preferred and favored by a lot of young collectors, or a lot of collectors who are looking for the aesthetics of the Nautilus but want perhaps more heft, a more sizable watch on their wrist, because that's what they're used to when they think of sports watches. And that's not entirely wrong, of course. The 5990 I have in the past likened to the Royal Oak Offshore, because once again, even if it preserves the larger aesthetics, the larger outlook of the original design that was inspired by a porthole, it is really a humongous piece. The thickness of the case, I believe, should be a smidgen over 12.5 millimeters. And part of its popularity as well is, of course, also in the way that it combines not only an automatic chronograph with flyback functionality, but also the travel time complication. So you have the base CH28, which is Patek's in-house self-winding chronograph with the flyback functionality, and also travel time, which has its origin in complications designed by Louis Cotier, who also gave the Worldtimer to Patek Philippe. And that allows you to go through different time zones in 1 hour increments by using these pushers on the 9 o'clock side. I think this watch would be so much more improved as a design if they found a way of integrating these two pushers into the crown guards. That would, I feel, restore some symmetry to the picture, don't you think? Otherwise, you guys know that I really appreciate this single register look for the Patek automatic chronographs, like a single crosshair style register at 6 o'clock, which here houses the brand's own signature as well as Tiffany's, because this is a watch retailed once by Tiffany and Company. This is a 60-minute register. You also have a pointer date that counterbalances that single subdial, this time at 12 o'clock. Through two punctures on the dial, you also have day and night indicators for both the home/reference as well as the local time. And overall, a beast of a watch that carries on Jurgensen's design inspiration into something that is even sportier and certainly much heftier. Here is a look onto the movement from the sapphire crystal caseback. And the watch actually comes with the full suite of its accessories, which includes the outer packaging from Tiffany's as well. And the certificate of origin is actually stamped by Tiffany and Company as well, specifically from the Houston, Texas branch. This is lot 29. The gradient gray version of the dial has now been discontinued in favor of the classic blue, which may or may not be a reason to go after something like this. This is lot 26 for a Patek Philippe 5990 line 1A-001, a Nautilus dual-time flyback chronograph retailed by Tiffany and Company, with an estimated value set in the range between 110,000 to 220,000 US dollars. Lot 29 is a very interesting Audemars Jurgensen piece. The case design is more aggressive than their usual. This is a reference 2340. A watch that combines the time and date with a moon phase indicator. .40mm white gold case with the spider-like lugs that have a very pronounced shoulder where they connect to the case. The dial is a classic opaline white silver dial with Breguet numerals and observatory hands that are flame blued stainless steel, but complemented both at their stack and also for the hour hands with a golden hoop. Which I think is a great way to play off the blue backdrop and golden moon of the moon phase indicator as well, which is located at 12 o'clock. There's a window for the date at 3, which I think horribly disrupts what is otherwise a very harmonious design. And the movement itself is not too shabby at all, and it can be seen through the sapphire crystal exhibition case back when you flip over the watch. This watch comes as a full set, which includes its original certificate, lot 29 for an Audemars Jurgensen white gold dress watch in 40mm with date and a moon phase indicator, and an estimated value of 20,000 to 60,000 in US dollars. At lot 31, we have an exceptional version of the most recent generation of F.P. Journe's Chronometre Resonance with a black dial. As you know, these are exclusive to the so-called black label boutique editions of their watches. The new so-called Series 4 dial merges the two dials within a single frame, centers it beautifully, with a skeletonized opening at the very center. The two dials are separated out as a 12-hour and as a 24-hour dial, which solidifies the use of the Chronometre Resonance as a dual time zone watch. Of course, it has a constant force remontoire, not to mention two separate gear trains with balance wheels put in close proximity to each other to realize the principle of resonance that allows these two movements to quote-unquote regulate each other and compensate for each other's errors. Only 2 examples of each reference is rumored to be delivered to each boutique every year. So the Black Label series is even more exclusive than what is already quite exclusive. As much as I prefer the original 38 millimeter case design, I think both in terms of the dial design and the placement of the two crowns, the latest series of the Chronometre Resonance is quite incredible. As you can see, the two crowns are now accessible at the traditional 2 and 4 o'clock, more or less, rather than one being located at the traditional 12 o'clock. So you can see that not only, you can see that the transition here is not only a redesign, an aesthetic rearrangement of the dial, but in fact the reworking of the gear train that reorganizes the movement, as well as, of course, its appearance on the dial side. This is lot 31 for an F.P. Journe Black Label Chronometre Resonance from the latest series. And the estimated value of the piece is set in the range between 300,000 to 600,000 US dollars. It's almost 8, so I will just ask for the like button. As you guys know, this channel is fully independent and works at the behest of its audience, which means that I exclusively serve you. I have no other masters, no one from the industry. I'm not sponsored for any watch brands, watch straps. I'm not trying to push anything on you. I don't favor anyone, any brands, no gray market dealer, nothing in my reviews and in my assessments, which also means that my survival depends on your support. So the smallest thing you can do, but the thing that I most appreciate, is watching my videos, hitting the like button, and sharing the link with other enthusiasts and collectors, because this is a channel that comes together as a community, and as a community that purely revolves around the passion for and knowledge of watches. It's all about horology here and nothing else. So if you want to contribute in other ways, you can use any of the options that YouTube allows you, in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks for videos that are already posted, for live streams that are already finished, when you're leaving a comment, which is absolutely necessary as well. You can buy and gift memberships, which give you access to exclusive content. And of course, by following any of the links in the video description, you can contribute in some other ways as well, which is perhaps more useful for you or preferable to you because you prefer anonymity, or you want to be more direct, kind of without using YouTube's own system. And I have dropped my PayPal link right there in the chat as well. All of that being said, again, you guys know roughly, quote unquote, the rules. I'm just looking at an auction. They don't sponsor me either. You can browse at your own pace in the link that I just shared, or through the link that I just shared with you. If you have any special requests, if you want me to highlight a particular lot, you can send in the lot number with a super chat, and I'll be more than happy to dive pardon me, into it with all the horological and historical detail that I can muster. We were just talking about the most recent generation of one of F.B. Journe's flagship models. This is the other one. You're looking at the Tourbillon Souverain Vertical. The Tourbillon has always been at the heart of François-Paul Journe's watchmaking venture. You guys know that in the form of an extended episode in my Rare series, I have actually done a deep dive on generations of F.B. Journe Tourbillon, and I will share the link right here with you. That was, I believe, the very first episode, episode 1. So here's the link. But this piece is the most recent generation, which was launched on the 20th anniversary of the brand and of his Tourbillon wristwatch. It's once again not just a simple aesthetic makeover, but a complete redesign. The tourbillon cage is rotated 90 degrees from the standard configuration, vertically placed to counteract the gravitational effects on the balance wheel, even when the watch lies flat, right? Because whether this piece is worn with a strap on a déployant buckle, or even potentially with a matching bracelet, or on a simple leather strap with a tank buckle, that vertically placed tourbillon works to counteract as a regulationary or regulatory mechanism the gravitational effects on the balance wheel. Because at the end of the day, a tourbillon positioned parallel to the dial is not really effective when the watch is lying flat. By the way, this watch also happens to be the first production model where François-Paul Journe uses an enamel dial right here, both for the main dial and the second subdial that is attached to it at 7:30, because enamel dials are thicker, and he prefers the watches to be as thin as possible. He hasn't used those enamel dials in other models before, but the vertical placement of the tourbillon basically already necessitated a thicker movement, a thicker watch. So it also was a good opportunity to introduce a new enamel dial as well. There's also a beautiful ring around the tourbillon cage, which is mirror polished, which gives a kind of three-dimensional, very engaging feel to what is essentially a romantic, quote-unquote, complication to begin with. So I think this is after Daniel Roth's initiative in introducing the tourbillon to the world of wristwatches in that signature way that really emphasizes the artful, almost spiritual, as it were, movement of the tourbillon cage. I think the vertical tourbillon with this particular presentation is quite remarkable, as well as an aesthetic experience. The only downside for people like me who have small wrists is that this is a 42 millimeter case. And let me double check, but I think the thickness itself is, of course, quite significant as well. And yes, it's 13.6 millimeters in thickness. That being said, I think the watch looks stunning, especially in this pink gold configuration. I think the dial color, the case, the enamel details, as well as the movement itself, make for a very holistic picture. Of course, this is full set. It's a 30-second tourbillon, by the way, so it rotates twice as fast as the conventional 1-minute tourbillons, which essentially also means that the watch compensates for those pardon me. A 30-second tourbillon, of course, moving twice as fast as the conventional tourbillon, moves through more positions in less time, so is supposed to be more chronometrically precise. And of course, since the watch also has a dead seconds ability connected to its constant force mechanism, the remontoire, there is another aspect of that intrigue on the dial as well. This was lot 32 for the FP Journe vertical tourbillon in pink gold, constant force remontoire, deadbeat seconds, of course with the power reserve indicator on the dial, and an estimated value between 300,000 to 600,000 in US dollars. Now, I want to go actually until midnight, but I need some encouragement from you. I think I will at least go to 8:30 or perhaps even 9. But if I get in the next hour, possibly earlier, who knows, 5 super chats of $5 and higher, I will most certainly go until 10 o'clock. How about that? An extra hour and even and a half watch talk. So I'm starting that goal now. I think most of you guys know already. The super stickers, unfortunately, don't count. Only super chats of $5 or more, in the amount of $5 or more. If I get 5 of those, this will go at least until 10 o'clock. And we'll see if we go even longer. Lot 34 is another watch with some significant provenance, and it is an Audemars Piguet Tank. Some of you guys might have seen that I posted an AP tank today in the shorts in yellow gold, in the classic tank normal shape, in the original design of Louis Cartier, so to speak. This is a piece that was first sold in year 2006 by Hunt Auctions in New York. as part of the Joe DiMaggio collection. And it is a piece that was gifted to the greatest hitter of all time for his part in the United Cerebral Palsy Telethon in 1957. It is beautiful, very elegant, ultra-thin, square movement, square piece with a kind of stepped bezel. The watch clearly has seen better days, but has the historic provenance to make up for its condition. Roughly 29 millimeters. Comes with an AP presentation box. Its previous letters and documents that certify its provenance. As you see, it's ultra thin. And the case back is engraved accordingly. With sincere appreciation and gratitude to Joe DiMaggio from United Cerebral Palsy Telethon, Jacksonville, Florida, May 27th, 1957. What a beautiful, beautiful piece. And here's kind of the whole package you would receive if you were the winner of lot 34 in the upcoming Sotheby's New York Important Watches auction. Nice to see you too, Thomas Broadman. And this white gold AP tank is estimated to go for an amount in the range between $10,000 to $20,000 in US dollars. Please hit the like button. That always helps. It doesn't cost anything. So that I would really appreciate that. There are two asymmetric tanks, which is a model that I really like, on lots 39 and 40. Lot 39 is a yellow gold limited edition from about 4 years ago, from 2020. Cartier is always known for these adventurous and highly original designs. So this asymmetric take on the tank was also introduced quite early on in 1936 with this angled dial. Of course, often these kinds of slanted dials were seen on watches that were either made for drivers or pilots. In the case of the Tank Asymmetric, of course, was not necessarily a tool watch, but something of an aesthetic concern, something of a design venture. And Cartier started bringing back re-editions of these watches. And this is an example of a limited edition that was launched in 2020 number 73 out of 100 pieces in total, executed in 18 karat yellow gold with a silvered dial. That's is something engraved on the case back, as you can see. Because at the end of the day, there's an international limited warranty card as well that carries those numbers in the form of a serial number. This is lot 39 for a yellow gold Tank Asymmetric from 2020, 1 of 100 in lot 39, with an estimated value set in the range between 25,000 to 50,000 US dollars. And lot 40 is actually a New York limited edition, apparently. A piece that perhaps with the markings of its dial is even more confusing than the usual slanted dial asymmetric tank pieces. This is a platinum piece made exclusively for the Fifth Avenue New York boutique, hence that specific accent on 5 as the fifth. Platinum case, ultra thin, 1917 manufacture caliber. The beaded crown is set with a ruby, which is how Cartier matches the platinum cases with. It has a unique sunburst blue dial with alternating odd numerals, with the emphasis on number 5 as the fifth. There's also a dot above that 5 that distinguishes it from the rest of the markers. Looks incredibly different from the example that we were looking at lot 39, which was also a limited edition, but much more sober in yellow gold with a silver dial, an absolute classic. This is a little more adventurous, maybe a little more youthful. I kind of like it, to be honest, even though the dial is confusing. But hey, at least it's not confusing for the sake of it, right? You know, it marks a special edition in some way. This one is also engraved on the case back with the emblem of the Fifth Avenue Cartier location, which they had since 1917, if I'm not mistaken. And here is the full set of its accessories. And here is a closer look at the international warranty card. This is lot 40 for a special New York Fifth Avenue edition of the Tank Asymmetric by Cartier. with an estimated value that is set in the range between 40,000 to 80,000 in US dollars. By the way, let's get those likes up, please. We have almost 15 people watching now. I think we can have a little more in terms of the likes. If you haven't hit the like button, that helps immensely. So please do. I'm continuing with my coverage of the Sotheby's New York auctions, all upcoming, with lots of interesting pieces with historical provenance. In addition to these limited edition pieces, we have looked at a lot of interesting Rolexes, some Patek Philippe's, some independent pieces by Jurgensen and F.P. Journe. We're coming back to Patek for 3 historically important pieces. Lot 41 is an example of the first self-winding perpetual calendar series by Patek Philippe. This is the reference 3748, what the Italian collectors call the padellone for its oversized case. For that time specifically, 37 millimeters in diameter, all dial, basically, with these elongated and relatively thin lugs as well, which emphasize the largeness of the watch. You know, maybe it's a little larger than 37 as well, maybe 37.5. So the size of the case, the size of the dial, the pointed and extended lugs gave it that oversized appearance and feel. It was introduced in 1962, and it was, in fact, the first serially produced perpetual calendar with an automatic movement. This is a piece in 18-karat yellow gold from around 1978. It is understood to have been made in about 600 examples in all metals, with probably less than 500 pieces in yellow gold. Very beautiful watch, very classic looking dial that takes after the look of the reference 1526, but a very different presentation of it. Here is a look at the movement once the case back is lifted. This particular example apparently comes with a certificate of identity and guarantee of origin that is dated September 29th, 1978, and with accompanying booklets. And lot 41 has an estimated value set in the range between 150,000 to 250,000 in US dollars. Lot 42 is a reference that is closely related to what we were just looking at. This is reference 3450, also called Padellone. It is a close relation to that earlier reference, to the reference we were looking at, lot 40, of that first self-winding perpetual calendar serially produced by Patek. This one actually has a leap year indicator in the form of a porthole-like opening located at around 330. Again, a 37.5 millimeter case executed in yellow gold. This piece was made in 1984, my birth year, sold also on August 17th. I am officially 40, by the way. My birthday month, as the queens of our time call it, has officially ended now that we are in December. But yes, one more turn around the sun, so to speak. But these are really great pieces of design. And once again, a great representation of a historic reference from Patek's lineage of perpetual calendars, the reference 3450, close relative of 3448, only distinguished from it by its leap year indicator. Here it is represented and laid out with the full set of its accessories, which include, in fact, two different archival extracts, as well as a certificate of origin that is stamped by the famed dealer, famed Lucerne-based dealer, Jubilin. And at lot 42, this yellow gold example of the Patek Philippe Padellone, the self-winding perpetual calendar with the leap year indicator, has an estimated value in the range, with a value in the range between 180,000 to 280,000 in US dollars. I think we are closing on our last half hour, so I'll try to do my best in terms of looking at as many different kinds of watches as possible from the important watches auction by Sotheby's, New York. If for whatever reason you have any special requests, feel free to send in a super chat with the lot number. If you have any other watch-related questions, feel free to shoot them. But otherwise, I will just continue pushing along. Let's take a look at the original serially produced perpetual calendar chronograph wristwatch, an iconic reference, if there is one, the 1518 in yellow gold, introduced first in 1941, and it was a feat of miniaturization and horological engineering, as it were, to fit the combination of these elite complications in a 35 millimeter case. This particular example comes from 1945. Sold on September 13th, 1947. So now when we say, of course, serially produced, we mean something quite different in the 21st century. Because I believe in all different metals, there were less than 300, specifically around 281 examples of the 1518 was produced. Of course, most of them were made in yellow gold. Maybe 1 in 5 were rendered in pink gold, and there are only about 4 examples of the stainless steel known to exist in the entire world. And up until IWC, thanks to Kurt Klaus's ingenious module, introduced a perpetual calendar chronograph in the mid-80s, Patek remained the only watchmaker that produced in series a perpetual calendar chronograph. So we're talking about 4.5 decades of dominance, basically, and this watch was the definitive watch, along with its successor, reference 2499. A yellow gold perpetual calendar chronograph, reference 1518 by Patek Philippe, manufactured in 1945, with a French calendar. Beautiful moon phase indicator, as you can see here. And it is accompanied by an extract from the archives that confirms its date of manufacture as well as its date of sale. Apparently, the piece left the manufacturer with a matching bracelet, which unfortunately does not accompany the watch anymore. This is lot 43 for Patek Philippe, reference 1518 in yellow gold. The estimated value of the piece is between 400,000 to 600,000 US dollars. Yes, Thomas, I've always thought that it was an interesting time that Patek introduced back-to-back the first serially produced perpetual calendar and the first serially produced perpetual calendar chronograph watch in 1940 and 1941, right in the middle of World War II. Speaking of definitive Patek Philippe complications and references, here you're looking at reference 1415 HU, which stands for Heure Universelle, the French phrase for what we know as the world time or Worldtimer. Sometimes it's also called today. when the Stern family took over the company in 1930s, this complication that they got from Louis Cotier was perhaps what encapsulated in the form of a wristwatch their global vision for the company. It's quite minuscule in appearance, but I think, again, oversized in its in its ambition to display at the same time the time in all in 24 different time zones of the world, which are here depicted on the bezel ring. The observatory style hand will be much replicated in future iterations of the Patek Worldtime. And of course, the 24-hour ring with its contrasting colors between day and night will also remain a fixture. The case design is beautiful. Again, positively diminutive by our standards, of course, but a classic dress watch from the first half of the 20th century. Here in yellow gold, the Worldtime dress watch by Patek Philippe. It comes with archival extracts that confirms the manufacture of the watch in 1946, in the immediate post-war period, and its sale on November 22nd, 1949. Incredible piece of history at lot 44 for this originary reference of the Patek Philippe Worldtime, the reference 1415 Heure Universelle in yellow gold, made in 1946. And the estimated value of the watch is set in the range between 100,000 to 200,000 US dollars. By the way, this watch too, the 1415, was introduced in 1939, so that also places it roughly in that same World War II period. That's both puzzling and fascinating in terms of the initial growth of the Swiss watchmaking industry in the first half of the 20th century. Please hit the like button in the meantime. We still have at least 20 minutes to go. Not sure if we will hit our super chat goal, but that's fine. I'll still go on at least until 9, and we'll see if anything changes in the meantime. But at any rate, I really appreciate your presence and support. And this channel would be nothing if it weren't for your contributions, for your participation, and for all the questions and comments you send in any shape or form. So thank you again for being here. Thank you again for caring about watches, because that's what animates us, that's what moves us, That's what continues to make us tick. Hey, at least we made it to the second page, right? There are a lot of interesting Cartier pieces. Which I will not really cover, but lot 55 is more in my immediate realm of interest. It is an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Perpetual calendar, the 15e Perpetuel reference 25820 BA in yellow gold in the classic 39 millimeter case size, caliber 2120/4 on that ultra thin legacy base movement. The Perpetual calendar as a complication was included in the Royal Oak collection in 1983. So inaugurating in a way the second decade of its existence, solidifying its place in the AP catalog. And it was really important in this particular reference as well, which was only introduced in 1998 to follow upon the classic 25-654. This is 25-820, which has the leap year indicator, as you can see, that is integrated into the subdial at 12 o'clock. Very beautiful and harmonious design again, both in terms of that quote-unquote 4 subdial layout with the 3 calendrical indications juxtaposed with the moon phase indicator at 6 o'clock. The flame blued hands, I think, coordinate beautifully with the backdrop of the night sky for the indicator of moon phases. Whereas the champagne dial, I think, accentuates the yellow gold largesse of the watch. Very thin, as you can see, with an exhibition case back as well. You can see that classic open-worked oscillating weight. That puts into sharp relief in Gothic font the initials of the 2 founding families, decorated and supplemented also by a 21 karat solid gold weight as well, as is usually the case with these kinds of AP watches. They are limited by production and engraved on the case back, indicating the number in the series, which is 88 in this particular instance. This is a Royal Oak Perpetual calendar in yellow gold. The beautiful champagne dial, which gives it an almost monochromatic and very distinguished appearance. At lot 55, reference 25-820, with an estimated value set in the range between 70,000 to 140,000 in US dollars. Lot 58 is a very unique execution or version of the Jumbo from the last generation. This is the 15202 IP, meaning that it's a titanium royal oak that is distinguished by its platinum details, which are expressed in its tapering, in the tapering interlinks of its integrated bracelet, as well as its octagonal bezel. Those are rendered in platinum. And its blue dial is actually of a very different shade than the classic stainless steel Jumbo, and has kind of a smoked / gradient look with a blackened periphery. Otherwise, the case dimensions and the thickness are of the classic Royal Oak Jumbo, which is executed in this special juxtaposition of titanium with platinum. This particular example comes with the full suite of its accessories. The piece was unveiled in 2018 and was a limited run of 250 units. The pre-auction estimate sets the value of the watch in the range between 75,000 to 140,000 in lot 58. Lot 63 is the Platinum Daytona from the previous generation. You can almost immediately recognize it from the full frontal view, thanks to two things. Of course, the maroon colored tachymeter bezel is not set inside a ring from matching material, as is the case with the new series. And also, this particular version with the baguette cut diamond markers for the indices actually has a pure ice blue dial, whereas the newer version, even with the baguette cut diamond hour markers, has outer rings for the chronograph registers that match the shade of the maroon bezel. This is the 50th anniversary Rolex Cosmograph Daytona. Fully executed in platinum, mounted on a matching bracelet, and presented with an exclusive ice blue dial, which has baguette cut diamonds for its hour markers. This particular example has the full set of its accessories, but no papers, seemingly, which is interesting because it is otherwise seemingly in excellent condition with the factory stickers. And here is the presentation with the box, the booklets and everything, as well as some empty hang tags. Unfortunately, the original warranty card is not present. This is lot 63 for a Rolex Cosmograph Daytona, reference 116506, fully executed in platinum with the ice blue dial that has baguette cut diamonds as its hour markers. The piece has an estimated value that is set in the range between 80,000 to 160,000 in US dollars. Lot 65 has one of my favorite versions of the Daytona. This is the 16519. It's the white gold version of the so-called Zenit Daytona, meaning that it belongs to that first generation of self-winding Rolex Daytonas that were powered by caliber 4030, Rolex's rendition of the Zenit El Primero caliber 400. This one has a white gold case with mounted on a leather strap with a matching déployant clasp, with a salmon dial that has applied Arabic numerals and silver outer rings for the chronograph registers, which reflects the white metal tones of the case itself. The case back sticker is still intact. The case overall is in a pretty good condition, seemingly unpolished and unabused. There's the original white gold clasp. This is a white gold Rolex Zenit Daytona, reference 16519, was a salmon dial. Quite rare in this particular configuration. And has an estimated value that is set in the range between 190,000 to 380,000 in US dollars. Hey, Van Lux, lovely to see you, man, too. I have maybe about 5 more minutes, but I want to cover at least 2 more watches. And I want them to be a little bit different. I want to see if I can find something that we don't usually cover here, or that we haven't yet covered, or we haven't recently talked about, at least. A lot of interesting Hoyas that I am tempted to just save for tomorrow, especially because of the Steve McQueen connection. Well, there are a lot of usual suspects, so it's hard to avoid talking about some of the pieces that we do talk about quite often. but I'm gonna choose a couple. I have settled on one already, but the other one I'm yet to choose. Okay, got it. So let's do these two. I'm gonna do oops, where is it? Yes. All right, we are gonna talk about this limited edition Patek Philippe Jump Hour watch. You're looking at lot 190 from the upcoming December 6th Sotheby's New York Important Watches auction. This is the 3969R, the limited edition tonneau-shaped jump hour wristwatch by Patek Philippe that was introduced for their 150th anniversary, marking 1989. The piece comes with what seems like the full suite of its original accessories, as you can observe here, which includes a very special presentation box, its chronometer and Geneva Seal certificate, the outer packaging, the leather bifolds to preserve the documents, as well as the special commemorative medal that was memorializing the 150th anniversary of Patek Philippe. The case is engraved accordingly on the back with the years 1839 to 989, the 150th anniversary of Patek Philippe of Geneva. And the watch has a railroad track for the minutes in a dial that reflects the tonneau-shaped case. It kind of looks like the Cartier Tortue specifically. There's an aperture at minute 60 for the hour, and the minute hand is a Breguet hand, which coordinates, of course, with the fonts chosen for the Arabic numerals, both for the minutes and the hour, that you can glimpse again through the opening at minute 0 or minute 60. This is the jump hour piece made by Patek Philippe in 1989 to commemorate their 150th anniversary. The reference 3969 in pink gold in a tonneau-shaped case that echoes with Cartier's Tortue. Lot 190 has an estimated value that is set in the range between 15,000 to 45,000 US dollars. And now for the last watch of the night. Thank you for all your contributions. Thank you for your support and presence. I really appreciate that you are here. Lot 227 is Kari Voutilainen's Dream Watch, what is called the Reference 3 of Urban Jurgensen. It's their perpetual calendar. The atelier was owned by Peter Baumberger, who passed away. So a lot of the operation was overseen by Dr. Helmut Krott. Derek Pratt was at the helm. Kari Voutilainen, a young Kari Voutilainen, was on his side. So it's no surprise that he would be highly influenced by these designs and still aspiring towards some of their most exquisite creations. And here you have the Perpetual calendar, the Reference 3, which was launched in 1990s using Frédéric Piguet base, an up and down power reserve indicator at 12. That is right under the opening for the moon phase indicator, romantically placed at the center of the watch, as it were, at 12 o'clock. Observatory style hands in the same pink gold that distinguishes the 38 millimeter case of the watch with a stepped bezel and teardrop lugs. There's a great side profile of that case. The watch has a wonderful assortment of guilloche decorations that set apart the center of the dial from, say, the subdial at 6 o'clock for the pointer date. The movement number is also on the dial, right above the power reserve indicator on a cartouche. And there are two further apertures, roughly at 3 and 9 o'clock, for accordingly the month and the day of the week. A classic piece with a beautiful case shape, closed case back, and here is the full presentation of the watch. A look at the movements from the dial side. Since that's usually where the perpetual calendar modules are placed. This is lot 227 for Urban Jurgensen reference 3, their Perpetual calendar rendered in a pink gold case, 38 millimeters in diameter, with teardrop lugs and a distinctive stepped bezel, beautiful silvered guilloche dial with the moon phase indicator at 12 o'clock. A fantastic piece with an estimated value set in the range between 50,000 to 100,000 US dollars. And the piece actually comes with the full set of its accessories as well. That is lot 227 from Sotheby's New York Important Watches auction. I think I will come back to this auction tomorrow to talk about some of the Hoya pieces perhaps, as well as some other watches that we haven't yet covered. I'll share the link again. Maybe you want to take a look while I'm gone and catch up with me tomorrow. In either case, guys, you know, this channel is completely at your service. It also survives and thrives at your behest, so your contributions are extremely valuable. So I salute the captain. He's also a member of the channel with access to exclusive content. Ryan Hoffrey, GB, Ryan Hoffrey again, and Basil's Basil, also a member, for their super chats. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support and presence. If you haven't done so yet, please hit the like button. If you share the link with other watch enthusiasts and fellow collectors, that will help us expand this community that is built purely around the passion for and knowledge of wristwatches. If you have any last-minute requests, feel free to squeeze them in right now. If you want to contribute and help the channel in other ways, the links are provided in the video description. You can also follow me on Instagram. Let's go back there, perhaps, to close, because we have a few more things to discuss, perhaps, there that I didn't share before. No, I did. I think I covered most stuff. I mean, this thing is massive. I wish my wrist was about twice the size and my net worth about 40 times more, so I could have a Grebel Forcé in my Christmas wish list. That would be amazing. This is their 24-second tourbillon, specifically the model that's called Architecture or Architecture, where the entire case band is made of a large synthetic sapphire crystal. Of course, it is the convex case that sits so nicely on the wrist, despite its humongous size again. We were talking about the vertical tourbillon by F.P. Journe earlier, which was a 30-second tourbillon. This is a 24-second, which means that it moves through those positions even faster, arguably performing better, regulating better, getting closer to that ideal of chronometric precision to be achieved with mechanical watches. JD, thank you so much, by the way. I appreciate you. Thank you for being in the chat. Thank you for your kind message. And of course, the whole point of this watch is that it's not simply an open worked watch. It's not just trying to show you the movement that happens to be there. It is designed for the movement to be seen in every single part of it. So the 24-second tourbillon is there to be seen in all angles. There is the red arrow is actually a 60-second hand. Of course, the tourbillon is inclined. You see the mainspring barrel, the power reserve indicator, and of course there is that distinct inner bezel which enshrines the 7 founding principles of the manufacturer. Oops. 9, my apologies, which are architecture, or architecture, which gives the name to the model, harmony, innovation, technique, bien facture, well made, passion, which is a founding principle of this channel too, science, exclusivity, and creativity. We couldn't wish for more. Thank you, Bezos. Like if you love the watch talk. And Ducky says, I love the watch talk. Here is what we were looking at as we were starting to sign off. So once again, thank you. Thank you for all your contributions. Once the live stream ends, please leave a comment of any kind. It can be one of those encouraging messages and kind words that you share in the chat. It can be a question. It can be, as Archie Luxury used to say, something nasty, vicious, and vinyl. Whatever it is, it will help us push this video in front of more people, in front of more watch enthusiasts. So please do that. You can also share a question if you like, and I answer every single thing, even the nasty stuff. Even if I don't respond, I make a mental mark and I never forget. So keep that in mind as well. But hey, I'll see you in the next one, which is going to be tomorrow night. Hopefully the earlier, the better. But it's lovely to see you on a regular basis. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, wear and enjoy your watches. I'll see you. Bye. Take care.